Welcome to show number 4, Following God's Direction. Christ's Master Plan. Leaders following their God-given mandate, model, and mission. All right, I'm so glad you're here with us for this show. And the question is, are you following God's direction in your ministry? So where are you going in your ministry? And what are your God-given plans? And is your ministry doing your part in God's plans? Well, these are important questions that all Christian leaders need to ask. All right. Well, one thing I wanted to start it off with is the church I attend has definitely been having a lot of problems, okay? And so many people didn't like what was happening in the church they left. So 7 years ago, there were 3 services, and now there's 1 service, and it's half empty. So you can tell there's been some challenges. Well, the church leaders decided it was time to call in a consultant. So they called in this consultant who charges $130,000 to help the church get back on track. So one of the things the consultant did was a survey. So they surveyed the people in the church that were currently attending, and they surveyed people that left the church to try to figure out what was going on. And after the survey, the consultant gave a report, which you could read. So I read the report, and in the report, there was just a recap on kind of what was happening in the church, which most of the stuff I already knew. But also it gave action steps to get back on track. And so I read those. Well, something that struck me was part of the survey, there were these questions and people answered these questions. And then when you read the survey, you got to see how people responded to the questions that the consultant gave to the people. So after reading the answers, I was I was so upset because the people in the church, they thought that the church was just average, right? They didn't really see any major problems. For me personally, I just saw the church wasn't headed in any direction. It didn't have a mission. It didn't have a strategy. And from the report, you couldn't see that. You couldn't see where people said the church has no mission and the church has no strategy. All right, so I was kind of disappointed at the other people in church because they didn't think there was a problem in the area of mission and strategy. All right, well, another thing that really kind of disturbed me was from reading the report, the steps to resolve the problems didn't include going to God and going, God, what is our mission? What is the mission that you've given our church? And the second thing the report didn't do was it didn't say we needed to go to God and go, God, what is the strategy we should use to accomplish our missions? So those 2 things were not in the report. All it was Band-Aid stuff, we need a new worship leader, that type of stuff. Obviously a lot of this stuff is good stuff and it needs to happen, but those are Band-Aid stuff. So that kind of disturbed me. Well, so why is a God-given mission and strategy so important? Why would I be so upset that the consultant didn't want the church to go to God and go, God, what is our mission? And then after God gave us a mission, go, God, what is the strategy that we should use to accomplish that mission? Well, here are some things. First, it's important to know our God-given mission and strategy because we want to do the will of God. We want to be doing what God wants us to do and not what other people think we should do or other churches are doing. We want to do what God really wants us to do. Second, when you know your God-given mission and strategy, you know where you're going. You have a plan. You go, this is where God wants me to go. That's why I'm doing this. The third thing is that the people in the church or the ministry have direction. They know what they need to do, and they can say, is this what I'm doing? Is this really a part of the mission and the strategy of the church? And they can make decisions based on is what I'm doing part of the mission and strategy? And if it's not, then they can obviously correct their course. So that's the third thing. And the fourth thing, when you know your God-given mission and strategy and you're following that, you can watch God do his amazing things. Yeah, so you can watch God do stuff that you would have never dreamed would ever be possible when you're following the will of God. All right, so that's why it's so important to know your God-given mission and strategy. All right, well, you may be asking, hey, how can I have a mission? How can I have a mission that is from God? How can I do that? Well, the first thing is you need to go to God and go, God, what is my mission? So that's number one. God, what is my mission? The next thing you need to do is ask God these three questions. God, where should we go? Where do you want us to go? Do you want us to go, to the next town, or stay in this town? Or do you want us to go to all the towns around our ministry? God, where do you want us to go? The second question is who? Who are the people that God wants you to minister to? Does God want you to focus on families? Does God want you to focus on youth? Does God want you to focus on singles? Or maybe God wants you to focus on all of those. I don't know. But you got to ask God, who are the people that you want us to focus on? And then the third question is, God, how do you want us to minister to these people? So those are the three questions that are important to ask God. And once you know from God where you should go, to whom you should go, and how you should minister to the people God's given you, then if you want, you can form a short sentence that includes all three of those things. But if you do form a short mission statement, make sure that it's memorable. Make sure that everybody, no matter who they are, can remember that. So that if you walk up to someone in your ministry and go, what is our mission? They can say it. They can say it. And in the mission statement, you know where God wants you to go, to whom does God want you to go to, and how God wants you to minister. All right. So that's how to have a mission statement, or to have a mission from God. Once you've got your mission, the next thing is have a strategy. And there again, you need to go to God and go, God, what do you want us to do? How do you want us to fulfill our mission? What is the strategy you want us to use to fulfill our mission? For example, I'm sure most of you have heard this, but The Simple Church by Tom Rainier and Eric Grieger. So that book talks about a strategy that a church can use to fulfill its mission. And in that book, it talks about clarity, movement, alignment, and focus. So that's a strategy. You've also, I'm sure, heard of The Purpose-Driven Church by Rick Warren. And so Rick Warren's got a strategy in his book. And the strategy focuses on fellowship, discipleship, worship, ministry, and evangelism. So that is a strategy. All right, another strategy is the G12 Vision by Castellano. So I don't know if you've heard of that. That's from South America. But when I travel to South America, almost every leader is talking about the G12. All right. And it's modeled after this, the leader, the pastor, Caesar, who believes he got a vision from God on how to do ministry, a strategy. And their big thing is having groups of 12, having cell groups of 12. That's their big thing. And for them, the last I heard, they had 120,000 people in these cell groups of 12. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. All right. So we have Christ's master plan. All right. That is the strategy that we encourage leaders to follow. And when you look at Christ's master plan, you look at the strategy that Jesus used. The strategy that Jesus used has three parts. The first part was Jesus was actively involved in people's lives. So he knew what was happening in people's lives. Part number two was Jesus helped people right where they're at spiritually. He ministered to people right where they're at spiritually. Part number three, Jesus helped people grow in steps. For example, Jesus helped people grow from not interested in spiritual things to interested. Then Jesus helped people grow from interested in spiritual things to a new believer. And then Jesus helped new believers to move towards becoming growing believers. And the next step was Jesus helped people that were growing believers to go share their faith. So those are the three parts to Jesus' strategy. Now, how did Jesus do this? Jesus created growth environments. Jesus created environments specifically to minister to people right where they're at and to help them take a spiritual step. So that's what we encourage leaders to do, to follow Jesus' strategy of being actively involved in people's lives, ministering to them right where they're at, and helping them take a spiritual step. All right, so that's our strategy. All right, so after you determine what is the strategy that God wants you to do, whether it's one of the ones we mentioned, or maybe God is going to give you a strategy that's a little different, or maybe God's going to combine a couple of things. Whatever it is, what is the strategy that God wants you to do? And once you know that, you know your mission and your strategy, then the next thing is to follow that, to follow your strategy so that you accomplish your God-given mission. And won't that be exciting, seeing what God does through your ministry? All right. Well, anyways, I'm glad you're listening, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And do you have a mission and strategy? And if so, great. That's great news. If not, we are here to help you, and I'd love to help you with your mission and your strategy, and especially if you want to implement Christ's master plan. All right. Well, please contact us if we can help you in any way. Also, we'd love to hear your comments, so please leave your comments below. We want to hear your comments. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, and look forward to seeing you at the next show. All right. Talk to you later. Bye. Now it's time to go and follow our mandate, motto, and mission.